Here.
Mayor Chazet.
Here.
Vice Mayor Butlin.
Here. This is the regular city council meeting for the month of September, and so there's an opportunity for public participation on items not on the agenda. I believe we have one speaker card this evening. Howard Gates, would you state your name and address for the record?
Howard Gates, 34 Sunset Drive. Coming back to you, been a few months since I've been able to make a meeting, revisiting the speed limits on the lakes. Last time I was here, a couple things. One, the mayor was nice enough to recognize I'm not a lawyer. I appreciate that.
And I was not either.
Secondly, you asked me to get with the city manager, so I did that. I provided Carmen with at least 4 examples of local municipalities that have enacted no-wake zones. Even city of Claremont, I believe it was, they banned fossil fuel-powered boats on lakes in the whole city. So this can be done, there's no doubt. And it's proven that other cities have done it with no issues. Nobody's being sued. We're still seeing jet skis scream around the lake that could cause damage to docks, shorelines, erosion. They're out there riding with no life vests on last weekend. So there's a safety issue here also. Just like you do speed limits on the roads, I think you should really look at doing some kind of speed limit or something on the lakes. The other thing that's come about of this, and I know the city sprayed the lake one time because of this invasive water lettuce, but it's coming back with a vengeance now. So a lot of us around the lake are paying out of our own pocket to get rid of this invasive vegetation that clearly came in off trailers or some other aspect of the boats. Because the reason I say that is I've been swimming in that lake for 52 years. We've never seen that vegetation there before, ever. And then all of a sudden, within 3 months after we start seeing jet skis and boats, we have that vegetation. This is going to be an ongoing problem that's going to have to be sprayed, and it's not cheap. So we're really just asking you to take another look at it, recognize you have the authority, you have the ability. You can easily just make this problem go away for every lake in the city of DeBary with a very simple resolution that you could just cut and paste and copy the one from Claremont, probably just change a few words. So we're just asking you again to really look at this. Please have a discussion about it. Bring it up as a regular topic so people can discuss it more in depth, and please look at this again. Thank you.
Thank you. I will have the city manager and the city attorney give just a brief update. They have done a lot of work on this, and they've not reached necessarily the same conclusions as you have from your research. City manager, would you do just we don't usually have a discussion, but would you just do a brief update and city attorney weigh in as well?
Well, Mayor, we've looked at this in a number of different ways. The attorneys looked at it from the legal rights, and I've kind of looked at it from an operational or enforceable. I know Claremont has no gas-powered engines on lakes, but as we did our research, and they do allow trolling motors and everything, which are electric. But unfortunately, they're making jet skis electric now too, and they go faster than the gas-powered ones. Speed limits and no wake zones are great. We can pass an ordinance on no speed limits and no wake zone, but it's just not enforceable for the staff that we have as far as our enforcement. We would need additional deputies to be able to do that. You got to catch them, with speed gun, and you got to be able to say, okay, so they can get there to measure the no wake zone, and make sure there's no wakes. But they got to be able to see those things happening, and so. Unfortunately, some of those things are not enforceable, and as we venture into no gas-powered engines so that they can do trolling motors if they want to, everything's becoming electric. And so it's just becoming more and more unenforceable from our perspective, and that's why we have a lot of hesitation about putting these policies on every single lake, because there's always a very difficult to enforce. You're going to need additional resources, and there's just so much other ways to get around the law that it makes it very difficult. So,
did you have anything to add to that, city attorney?
Yes, Mayor, just briefly. As we've looked at this, Lake Marie is a private lake. It's not a sovereign lake. It does not allow the state, and the state does not own the submerged lands like on navigable lakes, like larger water bodies. So that creates an issue. The lake is platted I believe all of the boundaries, the entire circumference of the lake has lots that are platted into the lake, and on the north half, roughly half of the lake, it's clear from the plat that the lots go all the way to the center of the lake. From the south, there's some dashed lines on the plat, but it looks like they also would extend to the center. So the city has no ownership interest, from what we can determine, of any lot or any part of it. So to Carmen's point with respect to enforcement, if it's a privately owned body of water, or the land and the lots, the question then is, can the city, even if the city wanted to enforce certain parts of it, how do we do that? And so it makes it a little more difficult. With respect to the actual passage of an ordinance, as Mr. Gates suggested, I think there are some ordinances that could be passed. The question is, one, how enforceable are they? Number two, if you go too far as a city, then you subject yourselves to claims by those property owners, those lot owners on the lake. So happy to look at it and see how far we can go, but even if we do, it's going to be, as Carmen said, practically a problem for the city to enforce some of those. These folks, I understand their concerns and a lot of their issues, but they do have private rights between one another. There's nuisance laws that apply. There are other things between the private property owners. They're all platted lots. So it really is kind of interesting. Under the law, the sovereign public water bodies are treated differently than the private water bodies. And also FWC, the question is, does FWC then have jurisdiction? Well, they do on the public water bodies or the sovereign water bodies. It's a little more problematic when you get to the private lakes. So anyway, some of the complications, it's not impossible, but it certainly does present a lot of challenges to the city.
Okay, it's not going to be a back and forth, Mr. Gates. I will tell you to circle back with the city manager about the vegetation issue.
I got another whole question now about.
No, okay, that will be a private conversation with you and the city manager. Thank you. All right, next on our agenda is the approval of minutes from the regular city council meeting of August the 2nd, 2023, and the special city council meeting of August 23, 2023.
Move to approve the city minutes for August.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda that we have before us? Hearing none, we will move on to our presentation and welcome Mrs. Rachel Hazel, the Deputy Superintendent with Volusia County Schools, to give us a presentation. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you very much, Mayor and Vice Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for having us. I am so excited to be here on behalf of our wonderful Superintendent, Dr. Carmen Balgobin, who has arranged for us to speak with all of our municipalities and cities and let them know the wonderful things that are happening in Volusia County Schools. This is my second year in the role of Deputy Superintendent for Operations, but it is not my first year with Volusia County Schools. In fact, it's my 26th year serving Volusia County Schools. So I'm very vested in the success of all of our schools. I've had the opportunity to serve on both the west and the east sides of the county. I won't tell you what my favorite is, but I'm here speaking tonight. So I certainly know the importance of this, that the schools serve in our cities and our communities, and they are the heart and they're in the future of our cities. And in DeBary, it's no different. Your schools, DeBary Elementary, Enterprise Elementary, they have a long history of excellence, and certainly we're very proud of the work that the teachers and faculty and students do at that school, because they really shine at the school. We've had a great start to the school year. We currently have about 63,000 students enrolled in our school district as a whole. You know that DeBary Elementary in particular contributes a lot to that number.
Over 900.
Over 900. In fact, it's right there at our largest elementary school. There's one other that goes back and forth, but I think right now they're the largest. We have 87 schools. And to put those numbers a little bit in perspective, we are the 57th largest school district in the nation. That's of 13,000. So we are a very large district, but we serve very fun small towns, and that's what makes us so special. We have over 8,300 employees, which includes more than 4,000 classroom teachers. The next question I usually get is, what about the vacancies? Well, I have some good news to share. And this year, we have at this moment about 74, 75 in that neighborhood. It changes every minute. Classroom vacancies, and while we are hiring every day and we want to fill every single position, we're very proud of that number because it's putting us back more towards pre-pandemic levels. Certainly, we want to fill all 74 of those vacancies, but when you spread them out, that puts us in a very manageable position. We are hiring for all positions right now, so if you know anybody or if you have any extra time, we'll take your application, and we'd love to have anybody that you know come and help us serve at the school level. It's a lot of fun. We have 159 bus routes that we run each day. We served on the first week 8,114 student breakfasts. Our breakfast and lunch program are free for all students because we have that district-wide. We served 27,000 lunches the first week of school, and that's up 3% from last year. And this is kind of a fun fact, but we have brought our custodial services in-house this year. We had contracted out for a few years, but we have started hiring our own custodians within our school system again. And in order to get ready for the new school year to start, they waxed over 3.5 million square feet of floors to get ready for kids to come in. We do have just a few updates with legislation and policy that I want to make sure everyone is aware of. The first one has to do with House Bill 309, and that's the cell phone use policy. To be in compliance with that policy, and really just for the sake of learning and teaching, all wireless and communication devices will be silenced in schools or put away in a backpack or purse during instructional time so students can concentrate on what's being taught at the school level. You may hear about that one if you're a parent. That's the one you hear about probably this year, but the implementation has gone very smoothly for us. We're continuing to monitor dress code. That is policy 217 for our school board. We also are carefully monitoring vaping and e-cigarettes and nicotine within our schools. The top priorities for our schools, as always, are student learning and safety of our students. We have school guardians on all of our campuses or SROs on all of our campuses that are put in place to protect, and our schools are held at the highest level of safety. We appreciate the partnership that DeBerry has with us. You're so many familiar faces, and that's because we work together in the city to make learning the best it can be. And on behalf of Dr. Balgobin and our chair, Ms. Haynes, who is a DeBerry resident, we certainly appreciate the partnership that you all provide. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next item on our agenda is new business. The city manager is requesting the city council adopt resolution 2023-10 to set the tentative millage rate of 2.9247 for the collection of ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 2023 to 2024. This tentative millage rate of 2.9247 is 7.65% higher than the rolled back rate of 2.7168. City Attorney, would you read Resolution 2023-10?
Mayor, I'm going to go ahead and do a presentation, and then we'll do the resolutions one right after the other.
Okay,
All right?
all right.
And then-
There are two presentations, then you're doing 3 and 4 together.
Yes.
And the second resolution will be 2023-11.
Yes.
And I assure you, the city attorney will read them to you at that time.
Correct. All right, Mayor and Council, this is the tentative millage and budget presentation. A lot of the slides look very similar. There might be one additional slide I got snuck in here to provide you some different perspectives, but
Excuse me one moment
Yep.
at the beginning. I know that we have some residents here who are very interested in the budget and the taxation, and they have their property bills with them. And it is unclear to them some of the lines. The only line we are discussing that feeds into this budget is the line labeled DeBerry with the 2.9247 under the tentative notice,
That is correct. Yeah, there, in a lot of folks' property tax trim notices, there may be as many as 7 or 8, maybe 10 lines on their particular
Right.
trim notice. And a lot of that's, there's like 5 or 6 that are county, school board, state of Florida, and then DeBerry's generally at the bottom. And that's that one line at 2.9247.
I just wanted to make sure for those who are in the audience or maybe watching at home that are looking at their tax bill, it is the DeBerry line only.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, not a problem at all. So Mayor and Council, this is the proposed fiscal year 2023-24 budget process. We're down to next to the last item, which is the tentative budget and millage scheduled for this date and this time. So this is a slide that we always show, and this is one we're very proud of. The city of DeBerry has one of the most financially conservative principles of any city in the entire state of Florida. Nobody runs government like a business like the city of DeBerry, as we always say. We have perfected the contract for services. We have outstanding leadership and performance, staff performance. And as we deal with a lot of other cities and work with a lot of other cities, we're very proud of our unified vision, strategic planning, and teamwork, both as manager and as council. As you go around to the other cities, you get to appreciate that more because of all the things that they're going through as well. We think we have the highest trust and integrity of most of the organizations, and some of our financial success. I like to remind folks all the time that we incorporated in 1993. We adopted the county millage at 2.83 mils. Today, our millage rate is 2.9247, and over the last 30 years, our millage rate has gone up 0.1 mil in the last 30 years. And so we've done a lot with that. We have a lot of critical capital projects we have accomplished. We've improved our internal operations. We have a very lean budget and a strong financial strategy. We limit overhead and debt, and I think by the time most of y'all get done with your terms, we're going to be pretty close to debt-free. And just to let everybody know, we're physically responsible. We only operate this whole city with 46 employees, which is 1/10 of generally of the cities our size. And so you can see there in that chart, we're a model of consistency, and we're a strong financial conservative organization. So we'd like to talk about rollback rate and proposed rate versus the rollback rate. And you've heard me say this before, the rollback language is very antiquated. It shows that our revenues are going up 7.65%. That is correct. Our revenues are going up 7.65%. But unfortunately, it's misleading, and everybody thinks that our taxes are going up 7.65%, which is not accurate. A lot of our residents are homesteaded. Nearly 80% of our residents are homesteaded, which are protected by the Save Our Homes Act at 3%. And a lot of the increases every year is related to the market value of their homes. I know that on my home, my market value is a lot higher than my taxable value with the county. I know every single year, regardless of what happens here, my property taxes are going to go up 3% every single year because the differential between the market value of my property and the taxable value of my property. It's just a given, and that's the way the system works today. And 2,025 homes in DeBerry are non-homesteaded. Those get the full tax, the rate of their taxable value. And a lot of the 7.65% increases are folks that are moving in from out of state who don't have the exemption, who purchase property by state law. If you buy a property coming in and you don't have the home exemption transfer, whatever you buy that property is going to be your taxable value moving forward. Also, commercial property and industrial property get reappraised every year. And we've shown you some significant examples through this particular process where apartment complexes or any other commercial property gets reassessed. It's also my understanding that the Florida Department of Revenue is coming in next year, and they will be doing some appraisals throughout the entire county on commercial industrial properties, reassessing their values. And a lot of it, for example, on apartment complexes, are based upon the rents they collect. It's not based upon what properties are sold on either side. It's based upon, a lot of the values are based upon the rent that you collect. And so they have calculate those. So yes, our revenues are going up 7.65%, but for 80% of the folks that have homesteaded, Save Our Homes, chances are they are going up 3% because of the market values of our homes going up, which is very similar to sales tax. I'll be very honest with you. Sales tax is a market value tax. Folks are paying more in sales tax than they are in property tax. And that's, DeBerry's property tax. As goods and services, taxable goods and services are going up, they're paying more sales tax. As cars go up, they're paying more sales tax. As everything else goes up, they're paying more sales tax. And so it's a similar thing. And as I tell all our legislators and everything else, I still have not yet seen anybody march on the courthouse steps, the Capitol steps, and ask the state to do a rollback on the sales tax. They have not, and I have not seen one yet. When I left the Department of Revenue, their budget was $80 billion. Their revenues was the state of Florida's budget was $80 billion. Last year was $117 billion. And there's a reason why their budget goes up. It's because of population and transactions. And that's as simple as I can put it. So it's not uncommon that property taxes go up based upon market value. So does sales tax. And it's the system and the laws that exist in the state of Florida today. So one of my favorite slides, I show this is our comparison with all the other West Volusia cities. There you see that DeBerry's at 2.9247, DeLand is 6.48, Lake Helen 6.85, Deltona 7.35. Orange City's going to drop theirs a little bit to 7.1209, and Volusia County's 4.84. So if you live in DeLand and you got a $200,000 house and you buy a $200,000 house in DeBerry, you immediately save 57% in your ad valorem tax. And that's comparable to our other cities as compared to our size. Our median income is up. It's up 32.2% in the last 4 years. And it's 20% higher than Deltona. And our median income, for those who are not aware, we're second highest in the county, only behind Ponce Inlet. And otherwise, DeBerry is the highest, one of the highest median income cities in all of Volusia County. And so our stormwater, we reduced our stormwater fees from $192 several years ago to $160, and we're keeping the rate the same this year as voted on by the council. And so every year we go back and we compare ourselves with other cities. We're still 44.5% adding ad valorem and stormwater costs than any other city in West Volusia. And it's something that you should be proud of. And I want to remember that over the last 30 years, our millage rate's gone up 0.1%, 1.1 mil over the last 30 years. So I did provide a different perspective, and this is taking all the cities in Volusia County. You see DeBerry there at 2.9247. Ormond Beach is at 4.14. That includes their debt service on general fund debt service. Their tax rate at ad valorem is 41.7% higher than DeBerry. And they're in red because they're raising their rates from a little more than 4.06 to 3.76 to 4.06. You see that on the right. And their debt service is still saying, a general fund debt service is 0.085. Some cities like to use that to separate their debt service so that they can advertise a lower rate. So it's just a ploy on what they can advertise. But Daytona Beach Shores is next. They're 51.5% higher. DeLand, they're at 6 point, as you can see down the bottom of the list there, 6.4841. That's their new rate they're going to pass this year. They're 121.7% higher than DeBerry, their rate. And so this is something that we're very proud of. We are able to run government like a business. You can see there Ormond Beach, Port Orange, and all Ponce Inlet all raising their rates significantly. to cover inflationary costs, but the city of DeBary is keeping its rate exactly the same. So as far as the budget is concerned, the operational expenses, the human resources, the CPI unit, which is for labor, is up 6.5%. It was up 7.1% last year. That's 13.6% in 2 years. Inflation is at 4.8%. Last year was greater than 6%. And so our budget includes a 4% increase for our employees. Other cities are averaging 3 to 6% for their particular employees. And in this particular budget, we're requesting one part-time employee move to full-time. As far as law enforcement, our same contract pricing as last year. Last year, we signed a 2-year contract with Volusia Sheriff's Office. We are adding 3 flock license plate readers in the city to close all our gaps in our city to make sure that there's not an entrance in DeBary that doesn't have a license plate reader. And it's a good strategic move to reduce and stay proactive in our crime enforcement in DeBary. That's why DeBary is one of the safest cities, is the safest city in Volusia County. The fire, and I don't say that off the mouth, that's Sheriff Chitwood is the one that continuously tells us that. Fire services, we got the contract pricing for the fire services. It is subject to some of the union negotiations. They're looking at, I think, a 4% increase for fire. We did add this year because of volume of work. We added a fire inspector and a vehicle. The fire inspections and the volume of work can no longer be shared with Orange City. And so they'll be having theirs and then own fire inspector, and we'll have our own fire inspector. There is a budget amendment that we have approved for the new fire station personnel that transitions when we build the new fire station that has language in it to transition our to increase fire staff to the second fire station in DeBary. And of course, Orange City Fire Department, they have applied for the grant to pay for the new personnel for up to 3 years. And so we'll know later on this fall whether or not they received that particular grant, which will be a significant transition cost savings for the new fire station. Elsewhere in the budget, the city manager budget is pretty similar as last year. That includes the HR director, the city clerk, the economic development and government affairs and communications. That's 4 personnel in the communications department. General government is similar to last year. The information technology, as I said, we're requesting 1 part-time employee to move to full-time, and then we received a cybersecurity grant last year, and we'll be implementing our new cybersecurity. And our finance department's, again, similar to last year. In our public works, what's additional this year, our bucket truck is no longer certifiable, and it's 10 years old, and quite frankly, it's served its life, and so we need to replace it. In Parks and Recreation, for our CDBG grant every year, we're requesting to build a pavilion in one of the parks. The Keller Dog Park is in conjunction with the 2022-23 Echo Project, which was in partnership with the tennis courts lighting, which we completed. And it's just a rollover from last year. We have some other equipment in Parks and Rec that have really served their life. They're almost 20 years old, the Kubota tractor and the Gator. They're 20 years old. Repairing those and maintaining those is going to cost more than buying new ones. And so it's time. The Keller concession stand remodel, that needs to be replaced. And I made one change since our last workshop, is the Florence K. Little air conditioning units. It has 4 residential units, and they're deplorable. And on the last leg, they're 15 and 18 years old. And so we made that particular change, and we offset that with some increase in our interest income that we did in the budget to offset that $20,000. We are earning a little bit more interest income because of the increased interest rates. In our budget, we have 4 major projects that we're working on this particular year, all of which, as you see there, is about $14 million worth of projects. The Fort Florida Road reconstruction, which is from the railroad tracks to Barwick. It's totally being reconstructed. It's going to be a 2-lane road raised up to about 2 or 3 feet. We'll have a 10-foot trail all the way down the road, which make this arterial road safer, where people can walk, bike, and use their golf carts to get from Fort Florida Road all the way down into the Sunrail or to Main Street. The Fort Florida Bridge, we received a $1 million appropriation through the St. John's Water Management District, and this is a 3-way partnership between the state of Florida, the city of DeBary, and also Florida Power and Light. And so we'll, once we get the contract signed with FP&L, which I'm hoping, and Kurt's been working on that, the FP&L contract, hopefully we'll bring it on September the 20th, we're lucky. And once FP&L signs it, and then we have to sign a contract with St. John's Water Management District, which is also in process as well. And once we get those contracts in place, we'll get the engineering started on the Fort Florida Bridge. The fire station, we did receive 2 bids from phenomenal companies and that are very astute in the CMAR contract business. And we'll be hopefully bringing you that on September the 20th as well to award that particular bid. Again, CMAR contracts are construction management at risk contracts. And we'll be working on awarding that particular bid. There'll be some management fees to get to a review of the subcontractors, so we can get to the, give a price of the construction maximum price, the guaranteed maximum price. So there'll be some work after you award it with the selected company, with all their subcontractors, come up with the guaranteed maximum price. And if it meets that budget, we move forward. If it doesn't, then we got to figure out what we need to do. And so that's how those CMAR contracts work. And then Alexander Island, we've put up $1.875 million. We expect $2.5 million from the Volusia County Echo. We've got the concepts from Kimberly Horn last meeting. We're currently starting the engineering for the entrance, and we hope that if we are selected for this particular grant, which will be awarded February or March of 2024, that we can get started on getting the entrance built, and we'll have to do some engineering on the parking lot. But we hope to get a good substantial of that particular park constructed and up and running in about 18 months. This is the Gantt chart from last meeting that we provided during the workshop. I did provide a little enhancement showing the road closures for the Fort Florida Road reconstruction. They're scheduled to start in January and allowing 6 months for construction. He thinks he can do it in 4, but on the conservative side, we look at 6. And the Fort Florida Bridge reconstruction, once that contract gets approved, we have engineering to do pretty much for the entire year and permitting with St. John's Water Management District. We're looking at construction for the Fort Florida Bridge possibly starting November 2024 and going to July 2025. Mayor, Council, I've shortened the presentation since we've gotten 2 other presentations for the workshop and for our initial budget submittal. But I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, I would like to see if there is public participation. City Clerk?
No, ma'am, there is not.
Okay, the one thing I would like to clarify for those here in the audience who may not be familiar with the Fort Florida Bridge is exactly what that is, because if you think of it, the only bridge you know in town is the one over the St. Johns River, and that's not what we're talking about. Do you want to define that? And that would, I think, be helpful.
The Fort Florida Bridge is, the FP&L, Florida Power and Light, has a 1,200-acre reservoir that they use to cool their turbines. And it's in the southwest part of the city. I think everybody knows Lake Conomac. And that's what we refer to as Lake Conomac. On the west side of Lake Conomac, there is a spillway, and there are spill gates. And they use the spillway and the spill gates to manage the lake levels in Lake Conomac. And that spillway goes underneath our bridge out to the St. Johns River.
Of Fort Florida Road.
And it goes under the bridge on Fort Florida Road. The gates are capable of releasing 2,200 cubic feet of water per second. Our bridge, underneath our bridge, the spillway can only hold 400 cubic feet per second. So the spillway gate's capability is nearly 5 times or more than 5 times what our bridge can handle underneath our bridge.
And there is a long story about how that happened. We won't get into it now.
No, so during Hurricane Ian, there has been some more damage underneath our bridge because the spillway, I do have pictures of our standing on the bridge during Hurricane Ian and the water's at our feet. They were only using one part of the 4-part spillway gate. And so it's something that needs to be corrected. We've been working on this for 3 years. And there's been a lot of negotiations, 4 years. So been a lot of negotiations back and forth with FP&L, with the state of Florida, FDEP, NDPES permit challenges and all that kind of stuff. And so we've been working really hard on making sure that that part of the city is safe, that the bridge and transportation there is safe and corrected, and it reduces any possibility of flooding to the lands to the west.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
Excuse me, Mayor, can the attorney read those resolutions into the record?
Okay, you want to do the resolutions now?
Yes.
All right, we'll do the resolutions and then we'll get comments.
Resolution number 2023-10, a resolution of the City of DeBary, Volusia County, Florida, adopting a tentative millage rate for the levy of ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 2023 through 2024 on all taxable property located within the City of DeBary, Florida, setting a final budget hearing date and providing for an effective date. And Resolution number 2023-11, a resolution of the City of DeBary, Volusia County, Florida, adopting a tentative annual operating budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2023, and ending September 30, 2024, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
No questions.
Councilmember Papalardo.
Just a brief comment. Thank you, Ms. Bauer and her team. You've prepared an excellent budget. It's very well presented and easy to interpret. And especially as changes have gone through, seeing the variance in version versus version has been very helpful in understanding what we're proposing for the year. And then to the city manager and his team, thank you for the supplements that you put together, especially the Gantt chart. One of the things that I've been weighing very heavily is the outflow of capital, which is very intensive in this coming budget year. The Gantt chart has helped me interpret that there will be a certain straddling of fiscal years and that the timing of those outflows should be manageable within reason. I do expect, and we understand that many things will go into the next fiscal year anyway. And then finally, I'm very pleased with the utilization of external funding. I believe that on a rough estimate, a little more than 30% of those big capital spends are supplemented by either the state or some other department like that. And I think that really speaks highly to how our staff is running things at DeBary, is that we are trying to lessen the burden on the resident taxpayer, that we are trying to create real benefit without really straining everyone's pocketbook. So thank you for so much effort that's gone into this.
Thank you. Councilmember Stevenson.
Thank you. Yes, also very glad always to see how we have really changed in our town to seek so many more funds from outside of just our regular tax base. How's the air conditioner going? I see them still working out there. Is the City Hall air conditioner going to be done soon?
We got the rest of this week to finish the growth management section in the building department. And then next week, it's the city manager's area over here on the west side of the City Hall on the second floor. And so we staged, and you don't notice it, the IT personnel do a great job converting this room. This is where we stage ourselves while the air conditioning is being fixed. You wouldn't know it today that our growth management people were here working in this room, and as well as our building department. And so they do a great job on converting it for city council meetings. So this is where our staff is staged while the air conditioning is being done. And each section 4 sections is taking 1 week, so.
Wow.
So,
Thank you. Well, I'm certainly glad that it's nice and cool in here. I just wanted to ask, though, because you asked about Florence K getting a new air conditioner also, $20,000. If I was looking at the city manager's budget here, it had $10,000 for, it's on page 11,
okay?
$10,000 for election expense. Would you be able to explain what that is? It looks like it wasn't used, except maybe less than $1,000 in 2022.
Next fiscal year, this coming 23, 24, we have an election. That we'll have to pay for our portion of that.
Gotcha.
And so,
Okay.
I believe qualifying might be in March of 2024, and then there'll be a primary in August of 2024.
I see. I
And we
understand.
didn't have one this year.
But that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I was like, you're not really an elected personnel, so I was curious if that
Yeah.
could go towards the AC. What about this one on the next page, page 12, 10,000 for a videographer? Doesn't our PIO and team kind of automatically do that?
Yeah, and
Or
that's
is this professional.
That's taken it to another level, and our communication staff does a great job with videos. However, there's another level that we can obtain to make our videos more professional, to do better marketing, and also to do better economic development. And so, yeah, it's just another level that we see, and we benchmark ourselves with other cities all the time, and we see them using certain types of professionals to enhance the videos, and that's the level we want to take it to. So,
Well, once again, I think you guys are doing an excellent job. This is a very lean budget. I've gone through line by line, as I do every year with the budgets. There's very little. Those are really the only two things where I'm like, well, what are you doing that for? This is a clean budget, very nice. And again, thank you, Liz Bauer, and also Carmen for getting this set up, and looking forward to a lot of these projects. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
I'm not going to belabor all the stuff that, thanks, Jim, for your recap, but it's the entire staff, all the directors, all their department heads and everything that have really sat down and analyzed what they really need. And when I don't see one, I'm like, they don't need anything? They're like, no, which is great. So very minimal stuff. So I'm excited about this. It's a good budget. And I do agree that we've increased our outsource of money coming in with our grants and applications that we're doing, which in years past we've never done. So I'm glad that we're taking advantage of whatever. And every time I see one, I'm like, did you get this one? They got it already. All right, good. So
Yes.
thank you, everyone.
Yes, I just want to say for the people with us here tonight who have looked at this budget for the first time perhaps, that this council has had this budget since July 15th, and we've had, individually, we've gone through it and brought all of our questions to management. That was in iteration 1 or 2, and we have worked through the unexpected things that come up any budget season, such as the air conditioning for Florence K. Little, and found a revenue source for it, did a finer pencil on the interest income we can expect for our investments given the higher interest rate environment, so that the budget remains balanced as it needs to be. And we have maintained our reserves, which in 2019 were extremely low compared to the city's exposure for things like hurricane debris removal, where you must do it immediately and you need money in the till. And that year we were running very skinny, and so management in this council worked to try to shore up reserves over the last 4.5 years, and our reserves are in a solid position now, and so we are in a position to handle much of the cash flow issues that Councilmember Papalardo alluded to as we undertake these large projects where we have budgeted the money and we have other people's money coming in to cover portions of it. We will still have to pay the bills when they come in, and sometimes the grant money comes after we have paid the bills. We have that flexibility because we have had years of work on trying to build up some reserves so that we don't have to have a line of credit or borrow when we reach those kinds of circumstances. Not to say that in the future, in an extraordinary project, we might not need to explore those options, but we have not needed it thus far and have built up a reserve that is able to handle these kinds of inflows and outflows without causing any crises. So if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion for, yes. I want one per resolution.
Per resolution.
I was going to say, I want a motion for
Okay.
resolution number 2023-10 to set the tentative millage rate
All right.
of 2.9247 for the collection of ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 2023 to 2024, if that is your will, or whatever the motion is.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2023-10 to set the tentative millage rate of 2.9247 for the collection of the ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 2023 to 2024. The tentative millage rate of 2.9247 is 7.65% higher than the rollback rate of 2.176.
2.7168.
168.
Okay.
Too many numbers there.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. The next would be, if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion on the request to adopt resolution number 2023-11 to approve the tentative annual operating budget for fiscal year 2023 to 2024.
Move to adopt resolution number 2023-11 to approve the tentative annual operating budget for fiscal year 2023 to 2024.
Second. Give it to Jim.
Okay.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
And I am a yes. The next item on our agenda, number 5, the city manager is requesting the city council approve the Central Florida Community Pet Clinic's Memorandum of Understanding for veterinary services related to DeBerry's Trap, Neuter, and Release Program. Who will be presenting?
I will, Mayor.
Okay?
Mayor, back in March 2022, we had an opportunity to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Central Florida Community Pet Clinic. You may recall that they opened up here in DeBerry, and they provide veterinary services. Much of their operation is for spade and neutering of feral cats. So much so that the city of Deltona uses them, and I believe the city of Orange City also uses them on the basis as well. And that particular time, it was a contract for 1 year, and their price was $45 plus some additional services if the cat being brought in that was trapped needed some additional services as well. And this year, we decided to do a 3-year contract. It certainly stabilizes the TNR program. Their costs have gone up to $50 per case. And we believe that it's a great value and it provides a great service to our community. I do want to say that none of this works unless we have a whole team of volunteers, and I'm sure you all got a lot of emails today. Our volunteers are extraordinary. We provide traps. They do a lot of their personal services on capturing these animals, making sure that they don't overpopulate the city. We already are having a lot of pictures and discussions with predatory animals coming in and preying on cats, and unfortunately, if they're better controlled and making sure they don't get out the less predatory animals that actually come in to feed on them. And so it's just very important to manage these particular population. And so the Central Florida Community Pet Clinic is located right here in front of City Hall. And it's just an excellent relationship and an excellent vendor. They provide great services for us. And Mayor and Council, the staff is requesting that you approve this 3-year contract for the Central Florida Community Pet Clinic.
Two points of clarification, City Manager, if you would, for the benefit of those in the audience. About how much have we paid out this year in such services?
Thank you, Mayor. For to date, we spent $6,200
Okay.
For these particular services. I think every year we budget about $8,000 a year.
Okay, so it is in the coming year's budget that we just passed?
It is in the coming year's budget, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Those 2 points, I think, clear it up for some.
Thank you.
Is there any public participation, City Clerk?
No, ma'am, there is not.
All right, Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
I will definitely say that I have seen a decline in the amount of feral cats, at least throughout my neighborhood. I have seen an uptick in wayward golf carts. So I would really like a TLR program, trap, lecture, and return. Golf cart program, if that's possible. Maybe we think about that for next year. So, yeah, that's a great program. It's working. I can physically see that. So, rather save the cats than have them be a food source for predators. So, it's a good program. Thank you.
Councilmember Papalardo?
No questions, no comments.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Thank you. Thank you to everybody who sent in emails. As you guys know, I love our TNR program. I love getting the feedback from the neighborhood saying, hey, yeah, our cat population is stabilizing or decreasing. So thank you for this. And I would also say that the clinic also provides low-cost spay, neuter, and vaccination for residents or any citizen with your personal pets as well. You can make an appointment on their website and pay for it. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a feral cat. Yes, they service a lot of feral cats for a lot of different communities in the area. But you can also take your personal pet there. The vet is top-notch. The staff is top-notch. It's clean. And they do a great job even for personal pets if you wanted to get low-cost services. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Butland?
I have also seen a decline in cat population, but with having a Florida panther running the neighborhood, it's probably why, because we have a big cat that roams in our neighborhood. It goes right through my backyard every once in a while. I'm happy with this. I've met the vet here, and several times I've gone in there and given her towels and blankets and stuff as I'm cleaning the house, and very appreciative of everything that's going on. So I appreciate the service that they have, and I think we should continue with it.
Thank you. And I will say, I think that this arrangement has worked very well and that the clinic has established a good reputation in our community. And I congratulate them for that. This hasn't been here but a year or two. And I think things have gone well and we've seen the benefit of working with them. And certainly if any of you have taken your personal pets to your regular vet for a spay or a neuter, you understand that $50 is a very reasonable fee for the city to pay for those cats that are not owned by people as pets. And it does reduce the population, which reduces a lot of other conflicts in the neighborhood. And as it's been said, it draws fewer predators to neighborhoods. Bobcats have been pretty prevalent. So if there is no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the Central Florida Community Pet Clinic's Memorandum of Understanding for veterinary services related to DeBerry's TNR program.
Second?
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Next on our agenda is the city manager's request that the city council award the request for qualifications bid for lobbying services to Ballard Partners, Inc.
Okay. Good evening, and the air conditioning's working fine because I'm freezing. This is Sherry Simmons. I'm your Economic Development, Communications, Government Affairs, and I guess tonight your Government Affairs Director. So tonight I'm here to present a proposal for engaging a professional lobbying firm to assist in the application and attainment of federal and state appropriations for some of our critical projects. There's a whole lot of money available now at the federal level that can go, directly to cities. That hasn't always been the case, so it's very important we engage with someone who has a strong federal presence. So not only in Tallahassee, but also in Washington. So in order to get here, the city went through a very intentional process. We advertised an RFQ. Our finance department assisted with us advertising an RFQ for lobbying services, and that took place on or about June 1st, 2023. Proposals were due July 14th, 2023. We're very popular. We received 8 bidders. And I will tell you, some of our state representatives were like, we're getting calls from everybody. Everybody wants to represent DeBarry. So, thank you, council. You have a great reputation. The selection committee, we formed a selection committee, which was made up of the city manager, the HR director, and myself. And we ranked the proposals according to a rubric of scoring qualifiers. After tabulations, there were 3 clear leaders, Ballard Partners, Inc., Gray Robinson, PA, and Southern Group. So the committee interviewed the top 3, and during those interviews, that's when their costs came out. So Gray Robinson was $120,000 for a year, and that would increase annually. Cover your ears. I don't. That will increase every year over the next 3 years. And they did federal and state representation. Ballard is $6,500 a month for a total of $78,000 a year, and that was also for federal and state representation. And then the Southern Group was $4,000 a month for $48,000 a year, but that was for state representation only. So the selection committee determined that Ballard Partners, Inc. was the best qualified bidder, and we negotiated a reasonable price for their federal and state services. Their qualifications and their business culture also align best with our mission and our legislative goals over the next 3 years. They're a great bipartisan staff that consists of former Florida State Department secretaries, elected legislators, and former governor chiefs of staff. They have obtained extraordinary results, especially in the last legislative session. They succeeded in winning, I think it was approximately $2 billion in appropriations and grants, including things that we're looking for: septic to sewer hookups, stormwater, fire equipment, as well as roadway reconstruction. Just as a reminder, I know we heard it a little earlier, but our legislative goals for the next 3 years involve major road infrastructure improvements, including Benson Junction, Highway 1792 rescoping project. That's going to be about $22 million, I think, about $22 million. Converting electrical transmission wiring to underground wiring, again, approximately $27 million. And we also looked at a few other projects. And in addition, we have major water quality issues on the horizon, again, the septic to sewer and West High Banks drainage system. Ballard has a successful track record in securing exactly these types of fundings, and they're one of the tops in the state. And as I said, finally, more and more federal funding is now being made available direct to municipalities, and I can't emphasize that enough. It's a big change. We're not having to deal with the MPOs or the state agencies or the local, I guess they're still state agencies. We can get money directly. And it can come in a variety of ways, and that includes congressional earmarks, bureaucratic grants, and other direct funding. I will tell you there's a lot of money in the federal system. There's different ways to get about it if you have those relationships, and we need someone who can navigate the bureaucracy and have those strong relationships with the senior levels at the agencies as well as across the aisles in Congress. So again, Ballard, we feel, is excellently positioned to help DeBarry secure some of these direct grants with their strong relationships with the federal, executive, and legislative branches of government. And we have their representatives are here tonight, and they've already been proactive in offering assistance to us during the hurricane. They reached out saying, hey, is there anything you all need? And that was really helpful. And the cost is included in our tentative 23-24 budget at $78,000 annually. And so staff does recommend approval of this contract. And I'd like to introduce Anna Cruz and Carlos Ramos. I didn't call you Victor. So there you go.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any public participation, City Clerk?
No, ma'am, we do not.
All right. Councilmember Sell, questions and comments?
I do have some comments. I wasn't a huge fan of our previous lobbyists that we had. I told Anna and Carlos exactly how I felt. It's not a secret. The fact that they actually took a tour of our city, got some DeBarry on their shoes. They came over and they introduced themselves to the council. I don't know if anybody's ever lent somebody money And if they've never given it back, you'll notice that they disappear. And I just never got a good feeling about our previous contract that we had with our lobbyists. I never saw them. They never really came up here to the dais and spoke to us before a meeting started. When this works, it works. We actually get a return on our investment, which is great. And the fact that we're already talking about septic to sewer money, it's a huge deal to me because the residents that are affected by this septic to sewer conversion are the ones that don't have all the money in DeBary. I'm actually one of them. So, I mean, we're trying to get this conversion done so no cost to the residents that are affected. To me, that is number one. It's huge to me. If you can pick the pockets of whoever's up there in Tallahassee and get us some money for septic to sewer, that's a win for us. I'll leave you alone. That's all I got to say.
Councilmember Papalardo.
I'm looking forward to the next round of state and hopefully future federal appropriations. Sherry, I think you've done an excellent job in fostering a lot of relationships, and Carmen as well, with our state representation and our federal representation. So I think there's a lot coming our way. I am very much that's the word I'm looking for, fortified by the backing of being able to have this professional firm who have been very impressed with their presentation, and it showed through in the scoring procedures. And wow, 8 bids, that is
Yep.
very impressive. Do you remember how many we had last time? Not 8.
No.
Not 8.
So everyone wants to do business in DeBary. Everyone wants to, hopefully lots of people want to give us their money, especially up in Capitol Hill. And maybe we could teach them a thing or two about how to run an efficient government.
There you go.
Maybe we can build a federal government. That'd be pretty cool. So anyway, I'm looking very forward to seeing some great performance out of this relationship. And I'm glad to have some bigger guns behind us.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Thank you. Mr. Rosamondo, would you tell us, I mean, did we get money from our other firm? Did they bring funds home to us?
They did. I mean, as you know, before the council got here and before I got here, the number of grants that the city of DeBary received or the appropriations from the legislative was 0.
Correct.
And so the first time we came in, we went for, we got surprised with the Glen Abbey, Summer Haven collapsing of the stormwater system there. It's a $10 million project, and we're still continuing to work on that. And so we got that in 2020, the 2020 session. Then last year, then we got the 2021. We've gotten
2.5.
the 2.5 million, and that was for 1.25 for the fire station. And then this last year, we got the 1 million for the bridge. And so, yes, it's a team effort. It takes a city manager, it takes your director of government affairs, and it takes your lobbyists to be able to circle the wagons and develop those particular relationships, develop the proposals, have a good business case, because it does take a good business case to sit in front of your representatives and make sure that you got a good case that's sellable to the entire legislature and to the governor. And so, yeah, it takes a team effort, and adding somebody capable of Ballard Partners just makes our jobs easier. As I explained to Ms. Cruz and Mr. Romo say there that, look, our projects are getting more and more expensive. Benson Junction's a $5 million project. The rescoping of 1792, which includes the putting the power lines underground, is $27 million. And so we're doing everything we possibly can to make sure that we can build the infrastructure to go along with the growth here. And a lot of other cities are 10 or 15 years behind their growth pattern of getting their infrastructure in. It's our goal to get it in at the same time the growth comes. And so we're doing everything we possibly can, and to have these folks on our team is just a big plus.
Excellent. Yeah, this was definitely an initiative for us to be bringing more of our tax dollars back to DeBerry, whether it's state funds or federal funds. This is what is going to help us, like you say, get ahead of the curve for our infrastructure and our development so that we're not falling behind. So I'm excited. I hope you guys bring us some good funds and good news on a regular basis. To echo Councilmember Sell, septic to sewer is a big one. These other road projects also very big. Our citizens and our budget really need this. So thank you.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yeah, thank you very much for coming out tonight, and congratulations on, after we approve this, to get awarded the bid. But I've already put them to work on septic to sewer. I have a meeting on Friday with the legislative committee, and I already said if there's any talking points I need to know, let me know. I gave them my business card. So I'm hoping that we can, and you know, with all this growth that we have and all the infrastructure, we don't know what's coming down the pike as far as other projects. These are just projects we're listing. There are other projects I'm sure that we can come up with. I know Carmen's good at all that. But thank you for presenting to us and wanting to be a part of it. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Shari and Carmen, for all the work. I know I go to a lot of meetings, and it's the Carmen and Shari show. Government affairs, city manager, they're, you know, we're out there. People know we're there, and that's why you get 8 proposals. So that goes to show what people want to see, what's going on in DeBerry. So I appreciate the hard work that goes into that.
Right. I want to say that I am, you know, loath to put speculatively 78,000 some direction, but really we do need to step up our game a bit. We've been very successful largely on utilizing the relationships that staff has built and some other relationships from electeds with some assistance from the prior group, but we need to get better, and particularly to tap the federal sources. However, in addition to all of the points about the money, which I agree with wholeheartedly, we also may have a couple of hot button issues this legislative session in Tallahassee that I believe won't have an immediate dollar figure for the DeBerry budget, but could have a very big dollar impact on DeBerry if these measures were passed and became part of Florida law. In this last session, we saw quite a few things be passed that I think other years I would have been surprised to see get through. And some of those we tried to leverage our relationships, and our views did not prevail because there was too great a tide on the other side. I am hopeful that you can stay to the end of the meeting, because at the end of the meeting during reports, I'm going to ask our city manager and legal counsel to mention one such pending issue that might be before us in the coming session. But I am encouraged that you, as well as others who heard about DeBerry by reputation, wanted to be here, that you came and plugged yourself in and see what it is, this wonderful place that we're trying to do the absolute best for financially and legislatively here in our city. So if there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to award the bid for lobbying services to Ballard Partners, Inc.
Second.
And authorize the city manager.
The city manager requesting, okay, and authorize the city manager
to finalize and execute the contract. at
to
the
finalize and
$78,000.
execute the contract. Oh, it's on that one, not here, okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Should I go start
Very
from the
good.
beginning?
Yep.
Second.
Second?
Okay.
Okay. Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes.
Thank you.
Next, thank you. Next is the staff request that the City Council adopt Resolution Number 2023-19, establishing a Hometown Heroes Committee. City Attorney, would you read Resolution 2023-19?
Yes, Mayor. Resolution 2023-19, a resolution of the City of DeBary, Florida, establishing a city advisory committee to review and recommend active military members and veterans to be recognized annually, defining committee expectations, duties, and duration, providing authority for expenditures, and a method for establishing meetings, providing for public meetings, legal and staff assistance, and an effective date.
Thank you. And who is going to present?
And then public comment?
Yep.
Yes, and you
Okay,
present
sorry
before
about that.
public comment.
Sorry, Mayor. Sherry Simmons, now I'm your communications director. So I'm
Which hats? Which hats?
I'm excited, got it. I'm excited to bring our Hometown Heroes program before you this evening. The sacrifices made by our active duty members and our veterans in service to our nation are deserving of the highest recognition and gratitude from our community. And DeBary, as I think you all know, has a great community of veterans and current active military members. We have seen strong cooperation with our VFW post here, including support for our Purple Heart parking spot that's here at City Hall, as well as, for those of you who were there, we had a great turnout at the parade a couple of weeks ago for Staff Sergeant Cable, one of our newest residents. So staff is recommending the creation of a committee dedicated to annually selecting DeBary Hometown Heroes. The committee will provide a structured and organized approach to selecting the honorees, and the service appreciation will be reflected in a banner program. Christine Raimondo on the communications team, and she's also a veteran, a Marine, has done a lot of hard work on this, and she would have been here tonight presenting it, but she had an urgent matter, so I had to get drafted into it. She drafted criteria. Oh, and I don't have the clicker. David, I don't have a clicker.
Just tell me
Sorry.
to change the slide. I'll
Okay. Oh, I get to tell the city manager what to do. Excellent. Okay. Right, so she outlined some of the other cities, there we go, that have this program. And I will say, Orange City, knowing that we were going to do this tonight, because they were involved from the VFW, so they went ahead and tried to get ahead of us. And they're actually discussing it. And they announced today, knowing we were doing this tonight, they actually announced today that they're doing one too. So, okay. So DeLand has one, Orange City's having one, and Deltona is going to be launching one soon. And Mr. City Manager, yes, thank you. Christina also drafted a quick outline of the process, and can you click again? Some eligibility, there we go, some eligibility correct requirements. And I'm sorry, Dorothy, if you don't mind helping, I'm sorry, I got it picked up. So DeLand helped us with what their banners look like, so ours would kind of look like that as well. So I just wanted to give you an idea. So we have one here. And if you can click, in order to get a variety of representation on the committee, the suggestion is to have one or two members from VFW Post 8093, one member from Volusia Military Officers Association of America, and two members that will be appointed by you all. Staff is going to promote the applications to the community, and then in December, you all can appoint our citizen representatives. We anticipate just 2 or 3 meetings a year to help make the selections for our honorees. For this year, we've already worked. We want to get ahead of this with the VFW to get this honorees up. Moving forward, the entire committee will be making the selections. For the immediate future, 5 banners will be posted throughout the month of November on the lamppost right here at City Hall. And we did that, and then another one at VFW. We did that not down 1792 because we didn't want people pulling over, stopping, and holding up traffic. But once Main Street is complete, the goal is to have it down Main Street where it will be more easily, if folks want to get a picture by them, that would be fine. And if you could click one more time, please. Oh, okay. It's a very limited scope committee with specific goals. The banners will cost approximately $500 to $600 total, and we may even have a sponsor for them. A couple of folks have expressed interest in sponsoring it. And again, the program does reflect the city's commitment to those who serve, and by working together, we can create a lasting legacy of gratitude and respect for those who have served our country with honor and dedication.
Thank you. We do have some public participation. Dorothy, would you come and say your name and address? And I'm going to let you say your last name because I can't read it.
That's okay. Hello, thank you, City Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Assistant Mayor. My name is Dorothy P. Howick. I'm a licensed mental health counselor in private practice in the city of DeBary. I'm also a United States Army and law enforcement veteran. And so I was brought on board to explain how this is going to be an awesome event for the city of DeBary. I'm also the former Madam Chairman with the City of Winter Springs Military and Military Family Advisory Committee. And the premise of the committee is huge, and that is that you have a huge military presence here in DeBary, as you've seen. And so a lot of the times, these veterans go unvalidated by society. And with the presence that you have here in the city of DeBary, you're able to give them a role and a commitment to being even more present within the city. So there's a lot of things that people seem to forget, that we are still very active. You can use this in just about any situation. If you can't bring in the Guard, you can bring in the veterans, and we will be there in a heartbeat, and we'll be able to know what to do because we're formally and federally trained to do that. Not only that, they love to volunteer. They love to become active and involved with the city. And so you're going to have a huge participation with that. You have a huge presence here with the VFW. This post is known in the city of DeBary, where people even from as far out as Leesburg come here. They also are a hub, if you will, for other networking folks, like the Traveling Wall is known as the Traveling Wall, which is for the Vietnam Memorial Wall that goes throughout the country. And so when you have a huge presence of veterans through a place like the VFW, for example, they're able to contract and get those agencies in here on the turf to bring the city of DeBary known throughout the whole state, if not the country. There's so many different other activities that are involved through different agencies, through the American Legion, and as she mentioned, another one with Volusia County. As DeBary is known for your military presence, through a committee such as this, it becomes actively active. You give them a role like scheduling for you and submitting to you all to vote on for activities like different holidays, Memorial, Veterans Day, 9/11, and you mentioned these guys will know how to employ it and get people involved, and that might take a little bit of stress off of y'all. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Dorothy forgot to mention her most important role, City Academy graduate.
That's right. So that's
Academy
funny.
graduate.
Well,
Yes.
here's the thing. So I was the second class, and we called ourselves the second class citizens. Because we were part of the citizens course here. And so that's so for every second class and every year, you're my people. I get it. Thank you very much.
Yes.
But most importantly, thank you very much for the programs and opportunities that you provide for your citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
Thank you for your service, Dorothy.
Yes.
The poster is amazing, absolutely amazing. I am sure we can get some people on board to sponsor some of those posters. Absolutely, I can think of a half a dozen right now that would probably be on board with that. This is great. Yeah, this is really good. I really like it. Yeah, it's a great idea. I'll support it any way I can. Thank you.
Councilmember Pappalardo?
I remember while I was at Stetson in school, they had those banners every year, and it garnered a lot of attention in a very positive way, and it's exciting to bring that here. So thank you for this presentation tonight.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stevenson?
No questions, but thank you for bringing this to us.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Let's not tell Orange City next time. I know the vice mayor of Orange City is the captain at the VFW, so
It'd be hard to keep that
it's hard to
separate.
keep it a secret,
He's the
but
one.
he's the culprit, I know.
To be fair, Vice Mayor, he did say at the Orange City meeting, DeBary, I got this idea from DeBary.
Okay, good.
There
Because
you go.
otherwise, we'd have to have a little discussion. I think it's great. You know, I support it 100%. I'm glad that the banners are going to be up. I can't wait. I can almost envision them on Main Street at this point. I'm glad they're going to be here so people can come in, stop. And I know you guys are going to do a great job promoting all that because it's the Barry's communication department will do it wonderfully. So I appreciate it all. Thank you very much.
And I just want to echo the sentiments of the other council members here on the dais. I think that this is a good addition, and it is an annual way to honor folks and bring positive attention to the individuals in our midst as well as to the city. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
If there is no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to adopt resolution number 2023-19, establishing a Hometown Heroes Committee.
Second?
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Pappalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is the city manager is requesting the city council affirm resolution number 2023-18, the declaration of a state of general emergency due to Hurricane Idalia.
Read it, Mayor.
Yes.
Resolution number 2023-18, a resolution of the DeBary City Council providing for declaration of state of general emergency with regard to Tropical Storm Idalia, providing for emergency authorizations and powers for the city and city manager, providing for duration and providing for severability and an effective date.
Thank you. I will note that as soon as the governor included Volusia County in his emergency declaration in preparation for the hurricane, the county immediately did their emergency declaration, and then within a couple of hours, I had contacted the city manager and said, you know, all the ducks are in a row, it's our turn. And so the thing about these emergency declarations are I sign them immediately because it is an emergency. They are brought to you then for affirmation, but they automatically expire every 7 days. So this has already tolled, and it is no longer effective, but we need for procedurally to have this affirmation should you choose. Is there anything else you would like to add, City Manager?
No, and just for charter's sake, the mayor has the authority to execute a state of emergency, which gives the city manager and staff, all the city manager, authority to prepare for hurricanes, to be able to expend dollars necessary for preparation. We did so. At that time, we didn't know where Idalia was going to go, and many of the what do you call those? The bands and the cone, the spaghetti lines, still had it, and we were on the east side of the storm, which made it even more dangerous. And the right side of the storm is usually the most powerful. And so we got the equipment in here necessary to prepare. Fortunately, we didn't have to use them. I'm not sure, we didn't even have a tree to come down. So even though we did expend the money there, it's every hurricane that threatens our community, we're going to spend anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 in order to prepare. That's to bring in front loaders, to move trees out of roads, for other skid steers and other equipment that we need, pumps, portable pumps, generators, everything else that we can possibly bring in here to make sure that we can keep our folks safe. And so, yes, it is an expense, but it's a necessary one. If you're not prepared, Lord knows a hurricane might come through, and then we're not prepared, and that you don't want to be on that side of the fence when it comes to that. So, yes, thank you, Mayor, for signing the emergency declaration. It does put staff in a good position to get prepared. We were prepared, and but fortunately, we didn't have to use it this time. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. We don't have to go through that exercise again. So.
City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Thank you. Hearing no additional discussion, or we can have discussion if you choose.
No.
Anyone have anything they want to say? Okay. If there's no additional discussion, I would entertain a motion.
The City Council approved Resolution 2023-18, declaration of state of general emergency due to Hurricane Idalia.
Second?
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. The last item on our agenda is a staff request that the City Council approve Resolution number 2023-20, modifying the Florida Department of Transportation's joint participation agreement, reducing the project scope of a connector trail. And City Attorney, would you read Resolution number 2023-20?
Yes, Mayor. Resolution number 2023-20, a resolution approving the City of DeBary's execution of the joint participation agreement between the State of Florida Department of Transportation and City of DeBary's supplemental amendment number and providing for conflicts and an effective date.
Thank you. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Several years ago, we received a grant from the Florida Department of Transportation to build the trail, connector trail from Highway 1792 near Fort Florida Road all the way to the State Trail in Gemini Springs. And so we've been working on the engineering and the planning of this particular trail. However, as we've been going through particular processes, we've been able to pass some of those costs on to developers, and we've taken advantage of those. And the Florida Department of Transportation, when you make revisions to these agreements, they want you to come in and do a modified agreement. And so that's what the purpose of this is to modify the original joint participation agreement for the $250,000 grant from taking the trail from Highway 1792 to the State Trail in Gemini Springs. And the area in blue is the Integra portion. The Integra Apartments built that particular trail at their particular costs. And so that trail is already existing, which leaves segment number 1, which is the trail that goes from Highway 1792 to the existing Integra Trail, and segment 2, which goes from Integra to the State Trail in Gemini Springs. Several months ago, we had passed an agreement with DeBerry Town Center LLC on the 2-acre exchange to require them to build the road and the trail for this. And so DeBerry Town Center LLC is now required, the area in pink to the left, is to, and when they build that particular road, is to build that particular trail that goes from Highway 1792 to the Integra. So we're passing those costs to them. And then, and so therefore, segment 1 is no longer needed based upon this particular grant. And so the grant is being narrowed down, and the joint participation agreement narrowed down to segment number 2, which is the pink area to the right, which takes the trail from the Integra Trail to the State Trail in Gemini Springs. And we provided some close-ups there of the engineering as well from this particular trail. It does go through some slight wetlands, but they're being mitigated and being accomplished there. Again, this is another location of engineering there for that particular segment of the trail. And this is the timeline. Once we get this approved, we'll in November go out for bid. The bid opening in December 2023, contract award in January. We'll execute the contract in January and then pre-construction meeting, and then hopefully get the construction started in February of 9th, 2024, and hopefully completed in April 2024. And so these are the general costs estimated by our engineers is $114,420.81. When we go out for bids, obviously, we're sure that the costs are going to be fairly close to this. And ultimately, our decisions to, over time, have saved the state of Florida nearly $100,000 in grant monies, which they'll allocate and put it back in the pool for other trail systems. And so it's just another example how good business practices with government saves overall revenues to the state and to other organizations. And so this saves the money to the state of Florida.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
Not at this time.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Thank goodness we have this grant here through that. That's a lot of expense for 417 linear feet, so very appreciative of that.
Sure enough.
Councilmember Stevenson?
No additional questions.
Vice Mayor Butland?
No comments.
And I have no additional comments either, so I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-16, modifying the Florida Department of Transportation Joint Participation Agreement, reducing the project scope of Connector Trail.
This should be Resolution 20.
2023-20.
Oh, then it's wrong in that place. Okay. 2023-20. It's wrong on the agenda item. You want me to
Second.
read it again?
I see where your
Yeah.
typo is, yeah.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. This moves us on to reports and communications. Councilmember Sell, do you have anything to report?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Councilmember Papalardo?
I'm optimistic about the installation of the no parking signs in Donald Lee Smith. I expect those signs along with the new school zone should lead to a good final improvement of the loop project, so fingers crossed. I understand enforcement is a bit away, but can always dream.
Okay. Councilmember Stevenson,
Nothing to report, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butland.
Just a few things. I attended the board meeting for Team Volusia, and it was Energy and Economic Development presented by Duke Energy, so it was kind of interesting. I also attended the Volusia Sheriff's Department's internet training for youth, which surprisingly, there were a lot of elderly people here, like grandparents and stuff that were
Grandparents.
here. So it was good to see that. I also presented gift baskets to the girls who were displaced and had lunch with, dinner with them Saturday night. And I am going Friday morning to the Florida League of Cities Committee meeting, and their subject for this policy right now is water quality and water issues. So I'm hoping to bring back some more information on that and what the state of Florida stands on.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
I also attended the sheriff's and school systems presentation on online safety for children that was held here in our chambers. And I want to thank the staff for the multiple communications that they made to the community. I was pushing ahead of time to make sure that we got the word out broadly, because I think this is a very important thing for our children. And the Vice Mayor is correct. We had a nice group here, and it included many who are of the grandparent age. Many grandparents are raising grandchildren. This is not an age that they are familiar with. They didn't have these kind of devices when they were raising their children, and yet they have grandchildren in their home. But we also had, according to the sheriff, the largest group of any of the presentations across the entire county, which goes to say if you really work hard at promoting it, you will get a turnout. There was a couple there that drove from Orlando. They spoke during the comments, and the gentleman said, "We are from Orlando. We would not have missed this. No one is talking about internet safety for our children where we live, and we had a child who was getting pulled in by something, and the sibling brought it to our attention, and we put a stop to it. But it's insidious. You can have as many controls as you want, and it's a danger." So they came from Orlando to DeBary because they saw the promotion, and no one was according to him, no one is talking about these dangers where they were. So it was really valuable for our community. I was very grateful for Sherry and her team working hard at getting the word out, including getting the word to the school system, which you would have thought was present in every other jurisdiction that held one. It does take some finesse, and fortunately we have Christina Raimondo on staff, and she used to be with the school system, so she knew what the parameters were and how you would get an authorized communication placed. And it was a very good evening. In addition, I had the privilege of providing a meal at a local restaurant for the 6 girls who were displaced from Northwest Florida from their therapeutic ranch. They were delightful young women, and they enjoyed a meal, an evening out. The Vice Mayor and her husband were there with my husband and my granddaughters, and we ate at a separate table but had a good interaction with the girls. And the Vice Mayor brought them goodie bags. And then I also had contacted the Central Florida Zoo, where I have a relationship with the management there. And yesterday they got free admission and a 30-minute animal encounter for their group. And they were pretty excited about that. And one of the adults who was with them at the dinner Saturday night said that they had, within their 6, there was one child that has never been to a zoo. And so I'm really pleased and that they are leaving to go back. The power, I believe, has been restored. And so now they're going back to their ranch, and they should be leaving with a really warm feeling towards DeBary, that this is a welcoming and warmly embracing place for people of all circumstances. So that was very touching sort of interaction that we had, and I was glad we were able to circle around those young women with that.
Mayor, one more
Yes.
thing before you you get into the Live Local, that Volusia Sheriff's internet training, we were the only ones to live stream it. We've got it taped, and it's on our website. And so people can
amazing.
go back after the fact and watch it and gain just as much if they were here too, so.
Right. So City Manager, do you have anything to report? And you do know that I would like you and the City Attorney to report on some proposals for legislation that might be quite concerning for us in the next session.
I'm going to start with the easy stuff first, and then
Good.
we'll get to Live Local
Report.
here in a minute. You may notice that the parking lights at City Hall have all been changed. We made a request about a year ago, and it's taken about a year to get that equipment in. But all the lights at City Hall now are all LED and all match Highway 1792. So we did get the no parking signs up in Donald Smith. We're going to make a couple adjustments, but the captain comes back from vacation next week, and we'll start heavy enforcement on that. We did make a lot of communication with the principal, and the parents have been notified in advance, and so we'll take care of that. I want to give you an update on Hickory Stick. I did talk to St. John's Water Management District today, and John Giuliani, the compliance supervisor. The DPCA, which is the HOA for DeBerry Golf and Country Club, has got all the information in, and they're ready to, it's up to him now to draft a consent order, which they'll think they will have executed within the next 10 to 14 days. And so that will get this project off the ground. They'll now be responsible for St. John's Water Management District and their timelines, but it's exactly what we asked the HOA to do 4 years ago, and they're finally executing what exactly was been needed in this whole project all along. So kudos to St. John's Water Management District and working that, and thank you to the HOA for stepping up and taking care of your responsibilities and fixing Hickory Stick. That's an important thing. Also, Mayor Council, I will be at the September 11th City of Deltona meeting. That's when they'll be having a workshop discussing their city manager search, and I am helping them with their city manager search. Our goal with the interim city manager is to unify the council to make sure that they can move through this particular process and get enough applicants so that they can interview and select the best candidate as possible. So one final thing, and this will put a smile in your on your mouth here, is that we're focusing on a groundbreaking ceremony at DeBerry Main Street the second week. And when we're kind of focusing on the second week in November, it's tentative right at this particular moment of time, but it appears that both developers, both Mosaic and Encore, will be there as well. We're going to have a huge celebration in the middle of the street, and we'll shut down Shell Road for the morning, and we're going to have a huge celebration there to celebrate what has been a long road of taking a lot of effort. Certainly, the city attorney and his staff done a great job in getting us there. It's going to be a great celebration. So we're looking at the second week in November. So if you don't mind, keep that week open. Probably Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'll narrow it down to that. We don't do much on celebrating on Monday or Fridays, but Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And so we'll stay tuned for that. That's going to be a great event, and it's well deserved by both staff and also by the council here. Phenomenal work in that regard. Mayor also wanted to kind of discuss some of this Live Local Act, I guess formerly known as HB 102, and it's something that we have to be very proactive, and it's becoming a greater and greater threat to not only to all the cities, but especially in DeBerry. If you're not familiar with the Live Local Act, or I guess the House Bill 102 or Senate Bill 102, it takes away the city's right to plan their particular city. They have, in this particular bill, they redefined affordable housing and based upon median income of the city. Based upon their new definitions, the affordable housing in the city of DeBary is estimated at $2,300 for an apartment, which is
Per month.
per month. And it's really kind of contrary to what the previous definitions of affordable housing was in previous legislation. And the threat is that they can build affordable housing if they meet the criteria on any commercial or industrial property or mixed-use property in the city, and without city council approval. And this is a big threat, as in some of the areas there, we do have some exposed risks in some areas, not only in standalone commercial or standalone industrial, but potential properties that are currently under PUD zoning that could expire or allowed to be expired, that puts the city at risk.
For the audience, could we explain that this kind of housing is apartments with a guarantee that 30% or 40%?
40%.
That 40% will be affordably rented for 30 years. And there is a lot of money that's available for these kinds of developments if you will commit to it. And it means that a developer that would like to do that could reach an agreement with any holder, any private owner of industrial or commercial property or mixed zoning property, and put an apartment complex there, and it would be just handled within our building department to make sure the setbacks were okay and that the safety regulations were followed, and it would never come to this body, the council, for approval, and there would be no public input to say yes or no, because the council may not say yes or no on it. It's a given right. And the legislature did that this last spring. Now, the way the bill was drafted, even land use attorneys tell me they believe that it is going to need to be tweaked this year because the language was not well written. That is their opinion. I think it's not well written in the whole concept, but even land use attorneys that use this for the benefit of their clients, and I can't fault them, they have a legal right to represent their clients' interests. And if there's a tool like this to help their client get what they want, they should use it. Otherwise, they're not professionally doing the right job with their client. So it's apartments with 40% being affordable. And in DeBary, because of the high standard of a median income, that may be a fairly high dollar amount. And it would not come to this body or any public hearing for approval. It would just be a given right if they met all of the other building code criteria. So not to interrupt, but here's the next thing. When they're working on this year, we hear they may have yet another idea.
Well, there are also two more points, Mayor, as we go. They can also use, when they build their affordable housing, is to use the highest density that's in the community.
Right.
And the highest density right now is around the Sunrail station at 32 units an acre.
Per acre.
And they can apply that to any property within the city. And so that's a big threat in our particular community. And so you can take a 20-acre parcel, and all of a sudden you got 600 apartments that can be built there. And so it's certainly a threat. We're hearing that not only that they may make adjustments, but they may expand it to other types of property in the city, and other types of property, including open space, maybe golf courses, maybe other things that might be a particular threat. And so we've already started reaching out to our legislators and advising them of our displeasure, but we want to kind of discuss, and the city attorney here is well aware of the Live Local Act, or was it Senate Bill 102? I think it's Senate.
SB 102.
SB, yeah. And so it's certainly a threat for our city, but he can certainly give you some of the legal backgrounds and the threats that we are now experiencing. I can tell you from staff, every developer that we speak to that has any inquiries is using this as a weapon in our negotiations in PUDs. And so it's something that we have to deal with, but And as I told the mayor and some other folks, we'll do whatever it takes to protect our city and protect our community against these types of bills. As I explained before in other meetings, these are reactionary bills. This bill came from, as my understanding, from a city inside the state of Florida that decided that they didn't want any affordable housing in their community. And it was a reactionary bill that was done by the president of the Senate. And so it's a real threat to all of our communities, and it's a reactionary bill to something that maybe the Florida legislature didn't like. But again, it's a challenge that we're going to have to be very proactive and be very innovative and creative and try to defend our city. I use the word defend because it is a threat.
We have, if they would expand it to golf courses, we have 2 golf courses, and golf courses change hands over time.
Yeah.
So if a developer brought the right dollar to the owner of a golf course, they could buy the golf course and put apartment buildings on it without this body being able to say yes or no.
And if they expand the affordable
If they
housing.
do, that is the thing that's the kind of thing that if when they're working with the language, if they expand it in some other areas as well as clean up some of the language, we could end up with even greater threat. So that's my layman's version, but we have a knowledgeable attorney here who can explain.
I think you all did a very good job outlining it. One point is not only can industrial zoned, commercial zoned, and mixed-use zoned properties be open to this affordable housing at a density that is the highest in the city, but also the height can be the greater of a minimum of 3 stories and the highest height that's allowed by the city within a mile of the project. So, so it's a pretty aggressive act. It's got a lot of issues, and it's not clear on a lot of points. The act does not expressly deal with planned developments, PDs, planned unit developments. Our position currently is that PUD zoning is not a commercial or industrial or mixed-use zoning. It's a contract zoning, and it's specific between 2 parties. But I'm expecting to see some challenges by folks that have PDs to that. Not only that, the potential for additional changes to help streamline this act to allow the affordable housing. I mean, there's a huge demand for housing. We understand that, and we appreciate, I think, the attempt in some ways to help cities and counties allow for that. But we think this particular act has a lot of deficiencies and issues, and is not planning. I mean, we didn't plan to have apartments in our industrial, our commercial, or our mixed-use zones. So we think that really is more appropriate for each city and county, not the legislature to dictate. So one of the issues, I think, as the mayor pointed out, is the opportunity for the legislature to expand where these affordable housing projects can be located. And so pressure on our collective legislators is going to be important. Right now, we're not aware of any legislative discussions about expanding this with respect to golf courses, but because there's so many failed golf courses throughout the state, and because there's so many golf courses are located at locations where the value of the golf course is either nominal, negative, or even if it's profitable, far less valuable as a golf course than it is for a residential development, whether that's a multifamily or single family. So there's huge economic pressures that can put all our golf courses and other golf courses at risk to conversion to affordable housing.
The city did act several years ago to implement an ordinance that said, ordinance or resolution, I don't recall, that said this is way before any of this, that golf course properties are expected to remain green space. However, some of the state legislation says things like notwithstanding any local ordinances. So we have an ordinance in place. So if this threat preceded this path this coming season of legislative action, if it was going to be added, we do have an ordinance in place that predates all of this. So one effort would be grandfather in those existing ordinances, and they can't do it in the future. That would be one avenue to try to protect DeBary. The other would be, you know, a lot of lobbying and strategizing to see that in DeBary we figure out a strategy to protect the city so that golf course ownership would not become affordable housing. I think that the entire city would be extremely upset if their, you know, home on the 14th tee oversaw an apartment complex with a parking lot. It's not exactly what brought value to their home when they purchased it. And so it could lead to a significant reduction in property values in our golf course communities by mismanagement of that core green space, which is currently golf courses. So I think that we need to look at strategies that might put us ahead of the curve on that. And I mentioned one to the city manager, and I think he will work with the city attorney to see, and if appropriate, something might come before the council.
Well, since Ballard's here.
Yeah, I wanted them to stay for this.
Yeah, Volusia League of Cities and the Florida League of Cities both supported Senate Bill 102.
Which was very discouraging for those of us who didn't like this. There's parts of it that are good. It's not like a bad bill from front to back.
Yep. But
But it was very discouraging that our associations thought the compromise language was acceptable.
I don't know, is it would be appropriate to have Ms. Cruz come up and say a few words? I know that they've been sitting back there quietly and
Making notes, which is a good sign.
yeah, and so, Ms. Cruz, you want to say a few words? And I know you may want to say a few words on the award, and you may want to say a few words on, obviously, some of the discussion we've had on the Live Local Act.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor and council members and Mr. City Manager. We really appreciate the opportunity to answer any questions that you may have regarding our new contract with you. We are very excited to represent your city at the state and federal level. Touring DeBary today, it was really exciting to see what you all have in motion and what is coming before you in the next few years, and what an awesome opportunity it is to serve on the council and to watch and to build a legacy of preservation and smart growth. And we are not only supportive and we are your advocates for that, but we truly believe that what you're doing here is incredible for your legacy and for those that come after you. As it relates to Live Local, we see a lot of preemptive bills. We've seen a lot of preemptive bills toward local cities, governments over the last, 5-6 years, Carlos? It's
Even
been
longer.
Even longer.
It's been a
maybe 10 years,
drumbeat.
Yeah.
It's been a drumbeat.
It has been a drumbeat. A lot of the issues remain when you have a leader that is sponsoring that bill. There is oftentimes you will find associations and others that support that legislation because they are supportive of the Senate President or the Speaker of the House. But that's not to say that we will not fight and work diligently on your behalf to ensure that everyone in the legislature that are on those particular committees of interest, and at the leadership levels, and also at the level of the executive level with the governor, understand what your priorities are and how your community is different from other communities. And I think that that's incredibly important, what you have here by way of the St. Johns River, Alexander Island, and your other natural resources, and how that directly affects your economic impact is different than, let's say, another part of the state that has an empty parcel that is not butt up to something that is so incredibly gorgeous like your natural resources. It's our job to know that about your city. It's our job to advocate for you, and find ways to work around specific legislation. I think that your idea about grandfathering in cities that already have an ordinance in place is a very good idea and a smart one. And we will continue to work with you on developing strategies moving forward for this session.
Thank you. City Attorney, anything else to report?
Pass, Mayor.
Hearing no additional discussion, we stand adjourned.